Happy Saturday, Grand Rising. Happy spring. We're well into spring now, guys. I hope you are having a wonderful Saturday. I hope you guys are spending some time on your business. As you guys can see, we have a familiar face here. We've probably done like almost 10 interviews.
That's crazy.
Almost 10 interviews. I'm going to have, irregardless, guys, I'm going to have Coach Austin just in case, this is your first time seeing his face. I'm going to have him introduce himself. Go ahead and chime in, guys. The question for today is, have you considered getting your business or nonprofit minority certified? Have you considered getting it minority certified? And what's holding you back? What's stopping you? Is there some confusion? Sometimes if you're confused about something, and me and Coach Austin just talked about that, so he's going to kind of demystify and clear out some of the confusions that go on when it comes to certifications. But that may be the thing that's holding you back. Is that what's holding you back, guys? Hello, Premier Inc. I hope I'm saying that correct. Yep. Hello, Premier Inc. says time to get this work. Peace, peace, family. Good morning. Hope you are doing well on this lovely Saturday as well. Are you already minority certified, and have you considered getting your organization, whether it's nonprofit or business, minority certified? We're gonna chime on in momentarily. We'll let you all come on into the room. This is this the same song we were playing earlier? Here's a little secret. I used to do ballroom dancing. It's like two-step Chicago, but in Detroit, I actually had a ballroom partner and everything. Like 3 years of my life was dedicated to ballroom, and so we were playing one of these songs, and I was like, this sounds like some good Detroit ballroom style. Do you got some moves, Coach Austin?
Hey, a little bit.
It's always good. I know you've been mentioning TikTok, so I assume
I'm trying to work
a little bit of rhythm.
Working on a little bit, yeah. Most definitely. You know, I'm noticing in our background we have a statue.
What'd you say?
So I'm noticing in our background we've got a similar statue.
Yes, we do. I love these statues. They just remind me. I don't always know all the background, but for me, I have so many of them. But they always remind me of peace, tranquility, chill, and I like to surround everything around myself with those types of reminders. You know what I mean? And so that's funny. That's actually funny. Like minds, great minds think alike.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself to anyone who has not seen your face or don't know what you do.
Coach John Austin with you guys this morning with the wonderful Tracy Clark. I've been in business for right at 15 years now. Started out in real estate development, and it slowly transitioned me after 2 recessions into focusing on teaching and coaching business, right? So now I'm full-time coaching. We have a team around us, combined about 160 years of experience, from attorneys to trademark attorneys to graphic designers, analysts that help write our business plans, analysts that help us do our research studies for those business plans, feasibility study scenarios, 3 to 5 year projection analysts, and myself. And we've got credit as well. We can look at personal credit development, business credit development. Our goal is really to give the entrepreneur and the small business owner a good foundation to be able to start with. We oftentimes have passions and dreams, and we'll run out and get things done. But there's no real blueprint in college or in certain schools that says, hey, this is what you need, right, to start your business. So we've got a bank-ready model, if you will, that allows any nonprofit or for-profit to have everything to get started foundationally, fundamentally, logistically, so that when you start your business, you don't have to worry about 2-3 years down the line, oh, I didn't do this right, or oh, I forgot to do this, or this is holding me back. So this is what we're here for. This is what I do. I love doing it. I always say, if I had this my first couple of years in business, I'd been way better off, way further down the line. So the goal is to let us take all those years of expertise and give it to you in one shot. That way you can really start off and be successful out the gate, and it'll be easier. Not easy, but easier.
Easier.
Than starting without it, yeah.
Pacing is so important. I think that was that story that we shared was talking a little bit about pacing as well. It is so important, making sure that you have things in line. I ran across so many people, every day someone messages me and says, "Hey, would I qualify for the PPP or would I qualify for some of the SBA funding?" Especially when we first went into the pandemic, and unfortunately, there was a lot of organizations that had been running activity wise but did not have all of their T's crossed and their I's dotted when it came to the legalities and certifications and licensing and registering with your state and all of those things. And I definitely can relate. I definitely can relate. I'm one of those type that when I started my first business when I was like 10 years old. So I definitely didn't know anything about about certifications. All I knew was, you know what? Okay, this is how this works. I grew up in Detroit in the hood, and I fell in love with watching businesses. Like, oh, okay, that's how it works. That's how it works. Then, as a young lady coming into my teens, I wanted my own money. So yeah. I'm like, okay, I got that part that I want my own money. What service can I provide? I started doing hair when I was 10 years old. But I've always moved kind of sometimes at a faster pace than almost at a faster pace than my business developed, should I say. So like my business will be developing fast because I'm big on starting now sometimes, because there's a certain balance when it comes to pace. I personally feel like as a planner, because I do love planning as well, and as a planner, I see so many times as a coach, sometimes people get almost too caught up in the plans. Like they've been planning now for 7 years. Okay, let's go. It's almost turning into a bit of self-sabotage or a bit of, okay, it was really, I just don't want to make that move or take that step. But it's so important to find the right pace. You know what I mean? To find that right balance of not moving so fast to where you throw your stuff out there and it's not done properly. And you may run across someone who might have been a great client or a great connection or could have done this or that, but then they see your stuff and they're like, oh wait, they don't put time into they're not putting time into their business. Oh wait, they didn't do this part correct, or they're not certified here, or they're not. And then sometimes when you figure out what these certifications are, the details behind them, or the details behind, for instance, registering with the state, there are literally states that have a 1-page registration and 24-hour approval. And you're out here, all wrong and all sideways when it's not even necessary, And so there is a balance there. You do want to make sure that you're pacing yourself enough to where you're showing up correct and you're taking the time for your business, because I'll tell you, it is a good problem to have. Me and Coach Austin were talking about this on a call yesterday prior to this. It is a good problem to have sometimes when your business is taking off so fast that you almost can't tend to it, but you don't want that to go on too long. You want to have some time, especially if you serve businesses. You want to practice what you preach. So for us particularly, we have a certain couple of days per week, which is focused on in-house. And it's focused on making sure we have all the things we're supposed to have, and making sure we're reviewing our own website, our own social media, all those things. Because as a giver and as a service provider, it's that old school saying that sometimes, what do they say? The car mechanic and the hairstylist and stuff like that, they're the ones, their hair is not done. Their car is the last one to get fixed. And we don't want to show up like that. We want to do better, So I think that's definitely important.
It is. And it can definitely happen. And I think sometimes, and this is why having a coach is so important, because it's okay to get started right away. It's just important on what you get started right away on. Mm-hmm. I want every entrepreneur and small business owner to get started right now. Let's go. Go. But what is it that you're starting on? And I won't say I think. I know for a fact that's what holds a lot of us up. Mm-hmm. And we get started, and then there's always a hurdle of something that we didn't do, didn't know, or weren't able to accomplish as far as protocol, processes, things of that nature, setting up a CRM, getting yourself certified, making sure you're operating under the right legal statute, LLC or S Corp or 501c3. And there's multiple 501, there's like 20 of them? Mm-hmm. Not just one 501c3, there's multiple levels of 501. So it's just making sure that, okay, what is it that I want to do? And I'll teeter back. Many of us have the debate of, I don't need a business plan. I don't need this. I don't need that. I know what I'm doing and I'll go. And the same argument is, well, I want to start, but then I don't know when to start and how to start. Well, that business plan answers everything because it makes you and holds you accountable for the things you've got to get done in your business. So as long as you can stay compliant on one end, it doesn't hold you back from pursuing your passion. And that's where we've got to have a balance. That's where the balance has to come in. And you can do that,
Absolutely.
you don't hold yourself back. We don't want to get, entrepreneurs don't want to get held back, not us.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, that's that entrepreneurial spirit. They're like, I'm ready to go. But you want to make sure you're working on the right task. That's where coaching comes into play as well.
Yeah.
And I always think it's important to note that majority of coaches, whether they be business coaches or nonprofit coaches or relationship coaches, they've had some type of coaching or teaching in their life as well. Coaches have great coaches around them, and we learn from other people's mistakes. It's not when you can learn from, that's a old school saying as well, that make your own mistakes and learn from them. That's great. But if you can learn from someone else's mistakes, if you can learn from, I started my CRM probably 5 years into my business. That was all of that database, all of those emails and things that could have. Now I still started it, and once I knew better, I did better. I started my got my CRM going, and and it's well established now. But if you hear us say, hey, you should be doing this from day one, because it's so easy to build on a solid foundation and go back and correct things. Then go back and say, oh, okay, wait, so even when I did start my CRM, I didn't have the things organized appropriately where, these people are the people that purchase coaching. These people are the people that, got your freebie. These people are the people. And that's so important because now, everybody's getting the same thing. So all of those little steps are important, but also you have to have balance in taking those action steps. And again, that's where coaching can come into play, because it's like sometimes you see all these things and you get overwhelmed. Like, okay, so I have to get certified. I have to register with the state. I have to register this. I have to do business credit. Now we have all of these social media sites. We have YouTube. I'm supposed to be on LinkedIn. I'm supposed to be on what's the other one? The one you're loving right now?
Instagram, yeah.
Clubhouse. Yes.
Oh, yeah, Clubhouse. See, I'm on all three of those.
Exactly. So, what do you do when it comes to overwhelm in that area before we dive into this next certification that some people are like, oh, okay.
Yeah, right. What do I do? Gosh, I find what works for me in what is aligned with what I'm trying to accomplish. So we talked about TikTok in the joking fashion right before we went live. And I'm looking at TikTok, I'm putting my toe into it, but I'm trying to see, is this going to help me? Now, if I talk to the TikTok experts out there, right, it probably will do great for me. I can monetize on it. It'll be fantastic. But is it fitting what my clients need? My clients need to be one-on-one with me. They need to hear my voice, and to get a business structured and up and running, TikTok can help. So I may hire somebody on to take this content and put it on TikTok and let it roam from there. But and maybe from an educational standpoint. But to answer your question, what works for me is, how can I get my message out in the best way possible so that people can hear what I have to say, understand how it relates to them, and take action on that. And right now, Clubhouse is where it's at, because I can talk to people in real time. I can sift through who's serious and who's not. I can sift through who needs a course, who needs a one-on-one, what brand, what stage they're at. I can cater my messages on Clubhouse a certain way, and then use Instagram as a kind of fallback on content. I can use LinkedIn, and I really cut and paste the same content on all formats. In my Facebook group, in my LinkedIn, and even on Twitter. Now, Twitter, for example, that's the common day. Well, I'm just throwing out ideas. So it's easier to just throw out ideas on Twitter than I can on content on Instagram, right? So I'll just have my little notepad. When I just think of something, I'll go to Twitter on it. Am I good at it right now? No, I'm not an expert yet, but it's getting there. So if I can be consistent across the board and know which platforms work for me and the audience that I have, without getting too overwhelmed with things. Because again, I've just been on social media for probably a year now, as far as Instagram.
Yeah.
Right over a year. So I'm okay with how it's coming in. So we have to understand what works for us. And then now we're doing YouTube, for example. So we want the content to go in certain places. So StreamYard allows you to go YouTube, Facebook. So you just have to make sure what you're doing fits for you, without having to try to do too much. You don't have to be everywhere. I
Mhm.
know some people that are just on LinkedIn and that's all they do. They may have an Instagram page, they may have a YouTube, but they're LinkedIn specific or they're YouTube specific. So be careful when you try to oversaturate by what everyone else is saying you should do, and just understand the market for what it's worth. Get with your coach and then sit with yourself and say, okay, what can I personally do? What can my team do? And go after that. And that's all you should be able to do. And do that.
Absolutely.
Don't get overwhelmed. Conquer your turf.
What works for you? What works for the clients and the ideal client that you have, or the ideal person you'll be servicing, or your ideal funder if you're a nonprofit? What works for your content, like you said, and where are your people? Are they, because you can't talk to everyone just because the biggest thing, and I know this is not on social media, so maybe that's a whole nother conversation, but
Yeah.
one of the biggest things in social media, and because I've coached individuals who've had 10, 20, I think up to 50,000 followers, but they couldn't find a way to adjust and monetize those followers. So sometimes it's not about just getting more followers, but making sure you're connecting with people that you can actually serve and they can benefit from whatever services you provide. So thinking about your clients, thinking about your personality. Okay, so for me, I've had YouTube videos. My highest view YouTube video is 30,000. And so it's a recorded video. And I'm starting to do more recorded videos. Those are coming out soon. But what works for me right now, and for the clients that I have right now, and how I'm able to show up consistently right now, is through lives. There's no editing process. There's no, don't have to worry about any of that. I love doing interviews as well. I found that, that works out good for me because I love chatting with people, especially during this time that we've all been inside. So you have to find out what works for you. I think that's very definitely a good tip. And make sure that you're focused on the thing that matters the most right now. And that's something that that I learned from you as well. I remember in one of our chats that you were talking about, you have your list and things like that, but what is priority today? Taking from that whole list and saying, what can really move me to the next pace today? It may not be, you may have an application that the deadline is coming up for our nonprofits for a grant that may be due this Friday. You may also have your website that you want to clean up a little bit. You may also have some posts that you want to put out. You have to take a moment and say, you know what, this is the time I have, and this is what's most priority, and what will provide the most for my nonprofit or my business right now. So I'm gonna focus on that, get that done, and move on to the next priority. So prioritizing is huge,
It's everything.
Absolutely.
Prioritizing is everything. I have an ebook that I teach a course off of. It's in the store under our website, and there's two other resources with it. There's a checklist and kind of a map, if you will. And one of the things in the ebook talks about the Eisenhower matrix, and there's a quadrant, and it has urgent, what's urgent, what's needed, what's mandatory, and like if the house is burning down, what's 911, if you will. And you got to know throughout your day, everything goes in that quadrant. So it may be urgent, but do I need to do it right now? Right? I have my task. I've made my list already. So what do I have to do right now? And if I can put it off until later, schedule it, take care of it. If it's that bad that it's going to, we can lose a deal, or it's going to hurt a client or something of that nature. Not everyone's 911 is your 911.
Right.
And again, you've got to be the captain of your ship. You got to be the one to determine, when do I handle this? And you have to say no. No is a complete sentence. But no doesn't mean no forever. No just means no, not right now, but I can schedule it here. I get bombarded with calls all the time, emails or DMs. Can I talk to you? Can I talk to you? You can, but I have a system. Schedule the appointment. It comes up on my calendar. I know how to schedule that out. I've got a few after this particular interview, and I can facilitate the clients better. My fiance Keisha says this all the time. We train people how to treat us. So you have to let them know how I can best service you.
Exactly.
100% of me, this is how I can best do that. And then we go from there. Yeah.
And here's how you can flow into the system that I've created and curated that gives the best service. And if somehow your energy or what's going on does not flow into that system, then that just means that connection, that client, that donor may not be for you.
Exactly.
So you have to be okay with that. Kim and said, likewise, I have to start right now or it never gets done. And I feel that energy. I think I'm like kind of like right in between because I even have some clients who literally like during our coaching session, I may say, okay, this is something that we need to get done between this and this. And they're like, can we walk through that right now? And if we have the time, we will. I'm like, all right, that's their personality. Like if it has to get done, I want to get it done right now during this time if possible. And sometimes that happens. So knowing what your energy is and what works best, getting to know yourself, guys, because everybody's going to be different as an entrepreneur. We're all definitely different. Good morning, Marika. Good morning, Miss Monique. Good morning, Mama Linda. Everyone, good morning, Colleen. Thanks for watching, guys. We really appreciate it. So let's get on into the meat here. Me and Coach Austin, we will talk forever. That's one thing we've learned from our interviews. But we're going to get into this minority certification. I would say probably 95% of the clients I serve are minorities, whether it be women or whether it be their ethnic background, they're minorities. So tell us a little bit about the importance of minority certifications.
So when you look at business and you look at funding, which is always paramount, everyone wants to know, how can I get funding? How can I get funding? Where's the money? Where's the money? Where does the money really reside, right?
Yeah. So, where does the money reside?
You've got different sectors. So I'll say here in Houston, you've got county level, you've got the city, the metropolitan level, and you've got the city of Houston in its capacity, state of Texas, regional, national. Every sector has its own funding. So if I go to Harris County or Montgomery County, counties in Dallas, wherever you're at, parishes if we're in Louisiana, you have a certain sector that funds go to just that area. The Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic Chamber, Latino Chamber, Black Chamber, all these different chambers, they all have access to certain grants and certain funds. To allow everyone to get an equal share, right? The way they divide things out, if you're not a white male, there's a category for everybody else is a minority certification category. Mm-hmm. Even white women are considered a minority category. Never knew. So you've got women, you've got African American, Black women, Black men, Asian, Latino, LGBTQ. They've all got a different sector. So when you get, for example, a state level certification or your HUB, HUB, historically underutilized business certification for your state, it'll go under a LLC or it'll go under the sole proprietorship or partnership. There's multiple different sectors. Now, for nonprofits, they can't, not every state can, but most states don't have a nonprofit HUB certification, but the owner of the nonprofit can turn around and be a sole proprietor or open up an LLC and get that HUB certification, and you can do a for-profit, nonprofit collaboration. That's a whole rabbit hole we can go down, but don't limit yourself and say, I'm just a for-profit and I can't exist outside of anything else. No. Mm-hmm. Take yourself on as a sole proprietor even, right? Get the contracts. And here's how this really in a broad scheme worked out. Certain groups of people have access to contracts, majority contracts. HUB certifications came around, but hey, we have to give at least a certain percentage of these contracts to minority vendors. Mm-hmm. So you have professional services, construction, large construction, small construction. Again, I said professional services. So it covers the entire gamut. But if you're not minority certified, you can't ask for those contracts. You won't be on the state's database under a certain criteria of the work you're already performing to get those contracts, to even get a grant situation. I'll give y'all a small example. A client of mine in Florida got herself, her LLC, had a nonprofit, got everything set up. And she went on and got her HUB certification in the state of Florida. She popped up on their radar. Within her beauty industry and being an educator, there was a grant situation that she was allowed to get. And she didn't even have to apply for it. They called her. She called me in tears, like, I got a $400,000 grant. What am I going to do? Yeah, I'm like, nothing. But sit back and write a business plan and go tap the grant. I never knew. No, you were set up right. You just didn't know how big this thing really was. So I say all that to say the importance of it is it allows you access to funding and even business opportunities that you would never have before. It's just a system that we work with. So those are the rules of the game. Now the rule book is being laid out. So just follow suit within your state, and that's how you gain access to so many relationships and funding opportunities. And that's what we all want as business owners.
Absolutely.
Don't make it harder than what it needs to be, but just know where to play the game.
Absolutely. What do you think it is? Why do you think that so many people do not certify as minority owned? Do you think it's just lack of knowledge?
Oh, purely lack of knowledge. People, so many people don't know that it exists, honestly. And I've done a lot of beta testing over the years and seeing why we aren't exposed to it. And I will be honest, a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners, it's not sexy, it's not entertaining, and it's not something that is really wide seen as, oh, I need to go after that. Because we're so entertained on TikTok and Instagram and all these things, we think I have to go after the influencer projected lifestyle to have a sustainable business. You don't realize I need to know my economic development director. I need to be on the Chamber of Commerce. I need to know my local SCORE, my local SBA director, my regional office with the SBA. I need to know the comptroller for my state, all those different things. That's who you need to know. That's where your money is really going to go. And if you're a nonprofit and you say you're for community outreach, I wouldn't be looking at the $100,000 follower person on Instagram. I'm looking at Becky or Tom, who works for the city, because that's where your contract and relationships are going to go. It's just purely lack of knowledge, but it's just not understanding that. And that entrepreneurship training that we do and Austin Business Coaching does that. Because even in college, you get some of it, I'll be honest, but not everyone goes to business school, because even entrepreneurship on Instagram says you don't have to go to school. You don't need a degree to do this, to do that. I feel a little torn about that, because you kind of do need to go to college or get some type of secondary education that exposes you to what's available on a local and an international level, right? Because I went to Spain and did business there, and I had to get a sponsor, and I had to follow their protocol to just do business in that country. But I didn't know that in an international finance and trade class that I'd taken for that degree, I wouldn't have no idea, right? I would have no clue how that worked. And YouTube University doesn't teach you that at all.
It's about education and investing in your education, whatever that looks like for you and wherever you are, investing in education. If you need something or if you need a skill in order to do something that you feel like you're passionate about, taking the time. I had one of the CEOs of a large organization here on for an interview before. She was like, sometimes those hard skills are important. The soft skills are great, but sometimes those hard skills of just going to school for philanthropy or whatever those may be required depending upon what your mission is. But education and developing yourself is always something that's going to be, whether you're for me particularly, when it comes to school, I actually graduated high school when I was 16. I was a fast learner, just learned really, really, really fast. Ended up going to school for childcare, and then immediately mid-school, like 2 years in, I started my first childcare business. I had a childcare business for like 10 years. I stopped school. I never did finish because I was ready to get out here and get going. Now, if you have the opportunity to actually, especially now, because this was a little while ago, but especially now with everything being online and all of the even opportunities specifically for minorities, veterans, things like that, to be able to go to school. We had a nonprofit who, while he built his nonprofit, he's in school as well for nonprofit development at the same time. And he talks about, we're going to have him come on for an interview as well, but he talks about how that really, really adjusted things for him, even being able to use some of his classmates for some of the projects, because some of the things they were doing in school related to his nonprofit. So they were able to do intern type things, and they were able to, that was able to build his nonprofit, create a marketing plan, creating a nonprofit proposal, things that they had to do anyway for a nonprofit, but they were able to select his. So definitely I'm all for, on a daily basis, I'm all for making sure that you're always expanding, learning, developing. That's just so important to make sure you have that information, because it's going to show. It's going to show when you're live. It's going to show.
Oh gosh.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
And even if you are a student, making sure that was my thing when I was in school. It was like, you know what, I'm going to get everything. Let me make sure I understand this fully. Let me make sure I'm honed in. From being in school, we all know that there are different types of people, and sometimes they're just getting it in, throwing it in, taking the test, spitting it out, making sure you're really understanding and breaking down these different concepts. Now, for those of you who, who are like, you know what, I'm not going back to school, or I'm already done with school, or whatever the case may be for that, there are alternative options, whether it be coaching and I would definitely say, like you said, a lot of things you're not going to learn on YouTube University. Sometimes I personally feel like obtaining a coach that's doing what you're doing can be almost far valuable than school, because they're doing it right now. Sometimes it's like, and it's going to be different for everybody. But just making sure that you're always investing in your education is absolutely huge. I agree with that.
I mean, I'll do that now. I'm investing in the lady. I was speaking with her last night, as a matter of fact, on Clubhouse. And I see she's got a pretty good following, but I also looked at what she's been doing. Mm-hmm. And I look at what her level of expertise is in an area where I don't have that level of expertise. So how can I get with her, pay for an hour with her, and soak that in and add that to my toolbox? Now, I've got a base level of understanding, and I think that's why college or secondary education is so important. It gives you a basic understanding, a baseline of things you want, and you don't have to worry about the stress of performing in the real world when you're in college. It gives you a baseline. And there's things you don't have to discuss. So when you get out there, it gives you better understanding. For example, people ask you mentioned earlier about PPP and SBA loans and all that kind of thing. So I put together a class. It's a 2-hour class, $150, but it's 2 hours of class, 2 webinars, like 4 hours of information. If you watch that first, it gives you better questions to ask on the other side. Mm-hmm. So people come to me and say, hey, I got a question on PPP and everything else. We'll take the class first, then come back. Mm-hmm. Once they take it and come back, the questions are easier. They ask different questions like, oh, I didn't know this. Now they're like, oh, let's tackle this question. Let's go this scenario. And those that don't, and it does separate the ones that make it. Yeah. The don't. People say, well, Mark Zuckerberg did this and Elon Musk did this. Y'all have to realize they both went to some prestigious high schools. Mm-hmm. Schools. They were taught at a young age certain things that some of us weren't taught. So they don't have to. Well, P. Diddy did the same thing. Again, there's special cases, but is that you? I don't think so. There you go. Who they hired around them to make them who they are today. So they're not a one-hit wonder, and they didn't man up on their own. It wasn't some one person show. So understanding the whole dynamics and what works for you, there's nothing new under the sun.
Absolutely.
But you have to get that foundation together first. Then you can go off and tackle the world.
Absolutely. And really just focus, making sure that it's always self-development. That you are constantly developing yourself, because the people around you are developing yourself. And again, are developing themselves, should I say. And again, as soon as you open your mouth, whether or not you've been developing yourself, whether or not you've been making sure that, each of the areas, whether that be physically, mentally, spiritually, if they've had any care, it immediately comes out. And it's not, there's no really, I wouldn't say there's no excuse, but I would say it's all about really investing time, whether it be investing time or investing money. If you have more money to invest, you don't have to invest as much time. If you don't have as much money to invest, you may have to invest a little bit more time. But irregardless, there's going to be that investment in, investment out. And I feel like sometimes one of the issues is people want to get the out before they really have invested what they need to into whatever it is that they're trying to do in life. So
I would tell people, think of it this way too. We have the term that's called return on investment, mm-hmm. right? Return on investment. There's no return without the investment. Mm-hmm. You can't have the R before the I. Mm-hmm. So what are you investing in? And we have to invest in perspective. You only have perspective from what you learned in your own life. And we all want to think of ourselves as being pretty smart, very intelligent, very capable, and able to do what we have to do. But if we're growing a business, we have to invest in someone that has a different perspective, a broader perspective, and a perspective in an area that we haven't gone to just yet. So I often get asked, well, Coach, how do you figure out who's a good coach for you? How do you figure out who's a good mentor for you? Well, it starts with you. It goes right back to that business plan again. What is it that I want to do? And can I see see by what my vision is, 'cause you should have vision of what you're doing, who is on the path further down the road than I am, and they've been successful and have fallen down, but they're still moving 10, 15 years down the road. If I need to look for those people, and I need to listen for, and this is key, you want to listen for what they say, the stories that they tell, the examples that they give in the work that they've done. And when you can see yourself in their stories and the examples resonate with you, okay, that's a mentor or a coach for you. I didn't see anything flamboyant. I didn't see anything flashy or anything like that. Because anybody can rent a house, rent a car, and look flashy online. But I need to listen to what you're saying. And that's why I like Clubhouse so much. Because you can't flex on Clubhouse for too long. People hear you talking, and they can tell pretty quickly if you're about that life or you're about that BS or you really are talking business.
Absolutely.
You can sit back and listen for a while and learn a lot about somebody in a matter of a couple sessions, just listening. And a lot of it's free. And people love to talk, about what they do. But if it's the same recycled information, people can learn answers over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I can sit in the room and learn what to say for a long period of time. It's the same 1 + 1 is 2 or 3 + 2 is 5. But if you throw anything 7 + 1 is what, and I don't know. You can memorize YouTube and books for so long. You have to have had examples in life to give people a conceptualized understanding of how to handle their situation.
And let me tell you guys where you get that from. If you're just starting off in coaching, or you have clients in your nonprofit that you want to serve, the history and the experience that Coach Austin is talking about, what that comes from is individual real connections with people and understanding the people that you serve and where their mind is. What I found, really simply, here's a secret, that the people that you serve had a lot of the problems that you had and you overcame. So you're able to connect with their mindset prior to creating this vision or creating this manifestation, because you were once in that point where that was a vision of yours, but you didn't have this and you didn't have that, or you didn't have, someone who you could just go to, maybe an uncle or something, and get that first investment into your business and different things like that. So you had to do it a certain way, and you can show those people with a similar background how to do that, whether that be in business, whether that be in love, relationship, whatever it is that you're gifted in. But those one-on-one connections are important. One of the things I want to pull out that I'm getting a little bit from what you're saying with that flamboyant social media lifestyle is just remembering that it is a social media lifestyle. We've all had the moments where we have a friend that we know in real life and we see their social media and we're like, what? It seems like different people,
Exactly.
And the truth of the matter is, it always is, because it's always what they choose to share. It's what they choose to share on social media. So where you're able to really build those working muscles is making sure that you're connecting with, if you're just starting off, that might be doing some free coaching. That might be helping someone around you, but really seeing where you connect to those people that you're able to talk to, that you're able to see in real life and things like that. So that's how you kind of build those skills. What I found is, for me, when I first started in business, and we'll get back to the certification momentarily, but when I first started in business, it was like, I really, really was all into the automation. And I was like, man, the whole goal is eventually to have every single thing automated. Well, that was like the first 5 years. I was like, okay, well, how can I do this to where I don't have to do too much, how can I do this to where I don't have to do too much? And what I realized, I was always trying to cut down on the connections and on the time that I actually have with people that are reaching out to connect with me in order for them to get to the next level. And what I realized the hard way was, that's where I was getting all my growth and experience was actually, I'll learn more. I learned from getting myself to a certain level, but I've learned even more when I see what works for someone else. Like, oh, okay, good. That worked for you. Boom. Let me pass that over here to my sister over here as well and show her, oh, okay, yep, let's do that too. Is that going to work? If you want to walk through this during this coaching session, we could all walk through it if that's going to help you get from point A to point B. It's all about that service. And another little secret, as we talk about social media, if service is always on your mind and it's really all about truthfully serving and taking other people to the level that you feel like you've obtained and really, really just sharing your gifts and sharing your knowledge, it makes all that easier as well. It makes the whole process easier, social media and this and that. And one last thing I want to piggyback on that you said that I think is very important. I don't want anybody to miss. You talked about that one person. Like, I need to get to know my Chamber of Commerce. I need to get to know the person who's leading in this area of nonprofits, or the person who's over these types of grants and things like that. It's so important. That's so important, and it ties into the social media aspect when you talk about views and things like that. Because I will tell you, I've had countless experiences every single year where it's been one person, one view that connected me to this person, or that was the person that I was able to obtain some type of, whether that be funding, whether that be a grant, whether that be an opportunity to speak somewhere or something of that nature. Always be thinking about that, the individual. It's not about how many. When you're first starting, sometimes people get a little bit caught up in those numbers, because again, they're following people who may have 100K and this, and they're trying to do those things, which is not going to work the same way if you are starting off with 1K.
Exactly.
There's a big difference. So you can't necessarily copy or use that as a template, because that's working with 100K following, which is different than a 1K following.
It is.
So you talked about the hub certifications. We'll get back on that a little bit. Tell us about the process. Like, how long does it take to approve? And guys, if you have questions about hub certification, this is the time to throw them in. Good morning, Conscious Nation. Good morning, Nicole. Good morning, Reg. How are you? So yeah, guys. Oh, by the way, I just saw Reg, guys. Quick congratulations. Reg gave out a specific session to DeMarco. DeMarco won that session. I want to make sure I announced that publicly, because a couple of weeks back, he was giving out a session for and DeMarco won it. So, but like I was asking, when it comes to the hub certification or certifications in general, tell us about the process, the fees, the wait time. What type of paperwork are we talking about?
I'm gonna pull this up on another screen. I know you can probably see me, but I'm gonna go into it. Hub certifications, I'd say, for the state of Texas, free of charge. They're valid for up to 4 years. They provide a business listing in the state's hub directory, allow state agencies and universities to provide a good faith effort in their hub expenditure awards, meaning what they're going to pay. And if you're hub certified, that they're looking to pay you for that. Ethnicities, Black Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, Hispanic, Native American, all American, and are an American woman, which they consider an American woman as a Caucasian woman. So they cover everybody: U.S. citizen born or naturalized, resident of the state of Texas, 51% ownership in that business. And the process takes right at about 60 to 90 days. Again, I'm pulling this right off the hub site itself. So
the approval process takes 60 to 90 days?
60, 90 days.
That's the average.
It's even quicker. Yeah, I think New Jersey's, theirs is like a week. One page, and most of them are just 1 or 2 page deals, page and a half. You just have to verify and certify that you are that type of person, ID, birth certificate, or whatever they're asking for. And now you're on the directory. Now they see you as, instead of just a business, an LLC or a nonprofit, right? You can tag that on top. Oh, this is so-and-so. They're this minority category, and they provide this type of service. Now we have funding opportunities and business opportunities to collaborate you with someone else, and there you go. Without it, that conversation doesn't exist.
So it basically puts you on the radar.
Oh, definitely.
Which has to do with so many processes. If you're not out there, if you're not on the radar, if you're not in the system, SAMs and things like that, then you're not able to obtain some of the opportunities. So each of those are definitely important. So that doesn't sound bad at all. 1 to 2 pages. Looks like we may have a question here. Years ago, when I was researching for minority cert for another business, the paperwork was not set up for a new business, the income requirements, etc. Has any of that changed to make the process easier?
It has, and quite frankly, I'll say, when it comes to the state level, historically unutilized business hub certification for the state, it's very, very simple, very easy. Now, there are some certifications, yes, that if you make over a certain amount of money, that's on the SBA, the national federal level, you cannot get a economically disadvantaged business if you make too much, because you're not economically disadvantaged. So they made it easier over the years. When I got my first Hub certifications 2007, 2006, 2007. And it was easy. I didn't even realize it was that easy. My business partner at the time, she filled out the application. She was a veteran, so we had like a triple minority. It was her, myself, and then the fact that she was a veteran. But it went through so quick, we got in the mail. I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool. And then we started getting so many phone calls. But there are certain certifications that are more difficult to get because of what they offer. But what I want people to focus on, and I'm giving a free class next week on the Hub certification, and then it'll parlay into the business plan and things of that nature. But the SBA certification, they're minority certification levels for WOSB, women-owned small business, economically disenfranchised or disadvantaged women-owned small businesses. You get your DUNS number and SAM and different things of that nature. Get your SBA cert account. You go into it like that. It's a lot easier than it used to be. A lot easier. And then from that point, you got a major cert on your hands. You can go after federal contracts and federal opportunities on a larger scale, and then you can start knocking down some of those smaller ones. There's about 10 for women right now that you can get fairly easy. It opens you up to so many different things.
When is the class that you were speaking of?
It is going to be April 21st, which is next, if I'm saying that correctly, next Wednesday. I'm going to put up. I'm on my website right now. When you click the site and go to classes, you'll see Hub Certification class starts April 21st. It's normally $389, but it's a free class.
And we have his link right here, guys. It'll also be on the description. If you guys are looking at this via YouTube, then it'll be in the description, and it'll be in the Facebook description as well, guys. But it's so important in the coaching aspect, I would say, that you realize the importance of linking with someone like we talked about earlier, linking with someone who's already done this before, so you don't make mistakes. I about 15% of the people that come to me are not new nonprofits who haven't started legally. There are 15% of them are nonprofits who did it and did it wrong and either got denied, or now the IRS is asking questions. Now we have to do some extra stuff. Like literally, I charge more to fix than I do to actually start it off the first time. So a lot of times, you end up shooting yourself in the foot. We did a Easter egg hunt with my staff members who have little ones. We did an Easter egg hunt with them a little while ago during the Easter time, and the littlest one, she's 3. I said, all right, I'm ready. Everybody got their baskets. On the march, get set, go. And on the mark, my husband always he always corrects me on that. It's not no march, but she took off into the neighbor's backyard. Eggs over there in the wrong direction. And that's so important. And that's something I see so many times when we talk about that pace and entrepreneurs who are moving too fast. Oh, okay, let me get this done. Let me just knock this out or whatever. You're moving so fast that it's hard to see, but you're actually extending the time. Because now you did that incorrectly. You got to go back. You got to sign it. Oh, okay, they asked for more. If you had did it right the first time, you would have had the regular 60 days. But you did now extended it out. Now it then took 100 days because you were trying to take a shortcut. Yeah. So it's so important. And that was a hard lesson to learn. Sometimes it takes some people quicker and some people a longer time to learn that lesson. But you don't have to know everything. And you shouldn't, even if you're a fast learner. I would deem myself definitely as a fast learner. If I really focus on anything from plumbing, to business, I can get it done. But let me tell you, I have a plumbing story where I was trying to do something myself and forgot to turn the water off. I had everything down except for turning the water off. And that was a disaster. And that's when I realized, listen, you have to outsource. Sometimes it's not worth your time. Figure out how much your time is worth, and it may not be worth your time. It may be worth getting that education required, investing in yourself. All entrepreneurs invest in themselves. Majority of the people watching today are some of my clients, so I know they invest in themselves. Exactly. Joycelyn said, so can you apply as a nonprofit, or do you need the for-profit to get approved?
Okay, great question. And I'm glad she answered that, because that was one of the things we talked about offline. So most states that I've seen, you have to have a nonprofit or a sole proprietor arm to get the Hub certification for your state.
You mean the for-profit?
Exactly. So if you're in the state of Texas, they don't grant Hub certifications to 501c3s. But the for-profit nonprofit collaboration is where so much funding is located. So you don't feel like just because I'm a nonprofit, I can't have a for-profit arm or a sole proprietor arm that allows me access to the hub certification and puts together that joint venture, because there's even a joint venture piece where you can apply for the hub certification. So if you're a nonprofit, just turn it into you are a sole proprietor anyway, apply that route. If you want to have an LLC, I would advise you to do so. Get with your attorney to make sure you're structured properly for what you're doing. But that little caveat can open up so many doors for you. So great question. Most states, I would look at it as, okay, I'm a 501. Let me go ahead and apply for this hub certification as a sole proprietor or as an LLC. Now I've got both things working for me. And you can have your contract set up accordingly to where your LLC, your sole proprietor, hub certified business allows you to work through your nonprofit. It's endless. It really is.
And majority of the nonprofits that I work with, and some of the ones I serve, some of even the larger ones I serve on the board of, have both, because there are opportunities in both. We have both. We have an LLC and we also have a nonprofit, because especially I would say the most opportunities for businesses, of course, have come up this last year of 2020, where some of it wasn't available for nonprofits and vice versa. There's a lot of nonprofit opportunities that aren't necessarily available for business. So definitely we can link you on and add on a business to your organization as well, Joycelyn, if that's something that you're interested in, because I would definitely say, to have both. Absolutely. Like you said, that partnership is where you're really able to obtain any of those benefits. Because as minorities, you want to have access to any of the benefits that you qualify for, or any of the funding opportunities that you qualify for. The truth of the matter is that a lot of these things have been put into place because there's not as many opportunities. So you want to take advantage of any of the different things. You don't want to make it harder than it has to be.
I want to say this. There's and I've been on the SBA site for years, but extremely heavy with this new program out with the PPPs and all those kind of things. And it is amazing how much funding is earmarked from land to farmland to acquisition of that land, development, startup capital, micro loans that are earmarked for minorities, disadvantaged minorities, women only. There's a lot for women only, tons in each state, right? There's a place on the SBA site, and I teach this in the class that I have as well. You can put in your zip code, and it tells you all the funding opportunities just in your local area alone. And sometimes it's open to anybody, but a lot of times you'll see it's open. And if you're not minority certified, you can't go after that opportunity. So if you're looking at startup funding, a lot of people are funding to help you scale or grow or get new equipment, things of that nature. If you don't have a business plan, if you don't have assumptions and projections and that certification, you're holding yourself back. Absolutely. You're definitely holding yourself back. And that's something that we have to start investing in if we really want to get into business. And a lot of people I've run across, and I mean a lot, you probably do the same thing, Tracy. They're like, what do I need to do to get this funding? I won't say I've got the exact key to it, but what I listen for is, what's the end game? Where's the money really residing, and how do I get it? Like, what are they asking for? And I put a clip up, if you guys go to my Instagram, I want to say it was yesterday afternoon, and you'll see a video that pops up, and there's an SBA director from Houston. And the part that I recorded on my iPhone while I'm watching it, he talks about assumptions. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's going to have cash flow. They know that. The SBA is really keen on how the entrepreneurial mind and business is operating right now. So it's okay. We've got money out there for you. We've got loans and grants. But we understand that you've got to have a business plan. That's what I question. Don't even go at it without one. Don't try to, and don't debate with me on it, because you're going to lose, because I'm not going to have a conversation. But I'm getting it from the SBA, and there's like,
well, no, I'm just joking. I know, right? I just like debating.
They're like, what are your assumptions and what are your projections? And if your assumptions and your projections line up and it makes it suitable for them, they'll give you the funding. And I was like, wait, hold up, really? So I recorded that and put it on Instagram. So watch it. And it's not me saying it, but I've heard this so often, it's like ingrained in my brain. but I want to get that out to the people so they really understand how this stuff works. And once you get that lined out, that investment alone opens up tons of opportunities for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a I forget the name of the movie, but there's a scene in this movie. It's about uh it's about a guy, I think Kevin Hart is in it. Do you know the name of that movie? Where Kevin Hart's in it, he's helping that guy that someone's looking it up for me right now. But the whole point of it is there's a scene in there that says if you want to start a business, find a problem and solve it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what I'm hearing when you're saying that is even if you don't have cash flow right now, if you've legitimately found a problem that you can solve and that's going to help the community, there are individuals, there are programs, there are SBA funding, there's government funding that will assist. There are problems.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to get into that. We were going to get into the vaccine problem. That was a problem, and people ran to it, and they dug in it. Like, let me figure out how to solve this problem, because not only will it solve a major problem, but whenever you're solving a major problem, you are automatically going to be able to elevate financially as well. That just comes with the territory. So if you start with the problem, it makes everything else easier.
And honestly, I'm almost revealed my business model going into 2021. In 2020, the pandemic was on us, and I saw, why is the government dumping so much money on? China was taking over as a major power, and you look at it as a business owner, we've got experience. We're seeing, okay, what's going on? The vaccine, this, that, and the third. Why is so much money being dumped on the economy? If we don't revive small business, we're not going to make it, the U.S. So I'm thinking, okay, now I've never seen anything like this. Of this much money and opportunities and availability for everyone to get the money. So what is the criteria to get that money as a business coach, as a strategist? So like, what is it? What do I know? What do I need to know more of? So I just started writing down the top 5 things that they're needing that everyone can go after. No excuses. No, just if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you'll get it. So we're already doing bank ready. So we moved that to the top of the hill and set up a platform for it, and now we can get it. So anybody, and the sound of our voices, if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you are opening yourself up for 100,000% more opportunities than if you didn't have it.
And the opportunity, that's what I've really found, is those opportunities are endless. It's about doing the things on your end that you're supposed to do to align with whatever qualifies you for those opportunities. Even right now, one of the biggest problems that we're seeing is there's a lack in some of the areas when it comes to like minimum wage jobs. You know, we went to eat the other day and we were like, what happened to this place? It's like the first time since, everything or whatever. And we're like, this is the worst service. And I'm customer service, y'all. Y'all know, because I provide great customer service. If I'm giving in your establishment, I'm that one. Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
Let me talk to the manager. And they were like, nobody wants to work because of some of the unemployment and because of some of those. So let me tell you, this applies even as an employee. If you do like, okay, I don't want to start my own business, I want to go and help someone else. If you came in and you actually started working, giving your best, solving problems for that company, you can grow economically, whether that be in that aspect or in the business aspect. It still all has that core of solving a problem. So start looking for these problems, because problems are opportunities.
It is.
Let's see. We'll go ahead and wrap up, guys. Absolutely, Colleen. I'll make sure we chat about that in our next coaching session as well, to make sure that you have both the nonprofit and the for-profit, so that we can link you with the certification. Also, guys, don't forget that Coach Austin is going to be doing that class on April 21st. All the information is on that link. It'll be posted as well. I definitely am. We will talk. Okay. Joycelyn, she definitely wants to do that as well. So that's awesome, guys. Any other questions that you guys want to ask, or anything that you didn't get to share before we wrap up here, Coach Austin?
Not at the moment, no. I mean, now I know why we got people here. PPP is still amongst us, the idea and all those kind of things. The best way to get those answers, those questions answered, that's for the class, and I should have put the link. If you just take classes off and put store on, I have a pre-recorded class with 2 hours worth of information. that breaks the entire thing down. So I'm going to just put that in the chat real quick.
Okay, awesome. That sounds good. So that'll be on there as well, guys. Also, another little highlight for PPP, I want to let you guys know that I've been getting from a lot of my clients. A lot of people are getting emailed if you apply for that first batch. A lot of people are getting emailed and they're letting people know that not only are they going to be redistributing or distributing more funds for the individuals who got something in the first batch because there's more funding available, but also for targeted areas. So if you serve an area of the community that happens to be hit a little bit harder, big cities, underprivileged or low income, people have been receiving those emails. So make sure you're checking your email if you applied already to see if there's second steps for you to be able to receive more funding. Organization, talk about organization and requirements and things like that. Can you believe that some people just might miss an email that'll cost them $10,000 to $20,000 because your email system isn't organized?
I'll say people have lost over a couple $100,000 recently because they weren't aligned properly. They don't have the right email system. Their business addresses aren't in the right place. So for that targeted EIDL that you just talked about, if you're not in that hub zone or that targeted EIDL zone, you may get the email, but you won't be able to apply for it because you're not structured properly. So there's so many things that people have missed out on, unfortunately, because the little things. Little things, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. And when you get that email, there's a little link that you can click the map and see if you qualify. But they have actually, this is as of this week, they actually have lifted that. It's the targeted areas. And now there's a second batch for people who just didn't get their full amount that they're going back in for as well, guys.
Thanks so
and
much.
Again, that's development. We go back, just chime in one more time on that education. There is no class in school that you can take for pandemic funding right now because this was the first of 2020. So what does that mean? You got to be on their site. You got to be on their FAQ. You got to be on the people who are experts in that area and make sure you're developing yourself no matter what.
Yeah.
Beneficial.
I did the class. I mean, it's only $150. But it gives you 2 hours of me teaching on everything SBA.
Awesome.
So any question you have, and it's not just PPP, I went way past that. I'm showing you all the other funding opportunities on the SBA site. So it's a fundamental thing. I probably won't never let it go. So it's really good stuff. So and y'all need to definitely give Tracy her flowers because Tracy has always been on top of it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. It's my joy to just serve. It really is. I serve some amazing people, and I finally gotten to the point where we're in the coaching aspect that I'm able to serve people that I can really help and that they can really grow. Sometimes, people just aren't in the place where they're going to be able to really develop from your services because you have to not only have great services, but you have to have that ear. And so I'm really appreciative that I've been able to attract the people, some of my coaching clients right here on this call, that I've really been able to expand and grow and just take one step at a time to the next level. So thank you so much, Coach Austin, for coming on. It's always a pleasure. He's going to be back, guys, every couple of weeks or whatnot. We always get lots of information here. Make sure you guys check out those classes. That is definitely a great investment for you to be able to utilize some knowledge, some time that he took to study and to make sure he understood what to do in this area and now able to relay it to you guys. That's definitely an investment well worth making. So we will see you all this coming next Saturday where my sister will be joining us, guys. Candace, she's actually does some things in PPP, payroll, not customer service, human resources. Thank you. I love human resources, things like that. That's all important as well, guys. So we will see you all next Saturday. If you're in our group, we'll see you this week at Wednesday at 1 for our regular Q&A in our Facebook group. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you again, Coach Austin, for joining us. And we will see you all in the next live. Have a wonderful weekend.
Take care, guys.